The town had long forgotten the little shop at the corner of Willow Street. Its wooden sign had faded, its glass windows clouded by dust and time. But when the wind blew through the crooked alley, there was always a faint sound, a delicate, rhythmic ticking, as if the heart of the building still beat. Inside, bent over a desk littered with brass gears, broken springs, and sheets of parchment covered in half-faded notes, sat Darren. His hair had long turned silver, his back slightly hunched, yet his eyes still burned with the quiet fire of obsession. For decades he had worked not for wealth nor for recognition, but for something far greater, something the world would never understand. Above his workbench, perched on a wooden beam, was a white dove. Its feathers glowed faintly in the lantern light, as though it carried a softness untouched by the dust of the old shop. Darren looked up at it often, whispering words no one else could hear. "Aurelia," he said softly. "Just a little longer. Just a few more turns of the key, a few more adjustments to the heart." The dove tilted its head, cooing gently, as though it understood. On the far wall stood the clock. Taller than a man, crafted with intricate carvings and crowned with delicate silver hands, it wasn't like any other clock in the world. Its face shimmered with strange etchings, spirals, stars, tiny symbols only Darren could decipher. Unlike the other clocks that lined his shop, this one wasn't for sale. It was his life's work, his confession, his prayer. It had been built not from steel and brass alone, but from grief and longing. The past years ago, when the world was kinder and the air smelled of spring, Darren had known laughter. He had walked hand in hand with Jennifer, whose presence was like sunlight through stained glass, soft, radiant, impossible to forget. She loved to linger in his workshop, her fingers brushing over unfinished timepieces, her laughter echoing like chimes. Sometimes she would tease him, saying, "You spend too much time with your clocks, Darren. I hope one day, when I'm gone from the shop, you'll notice how the real world ticks too." He always smiled and kissed her forehead, whispering, "Time only matters when it's with you." But time had not been merciful. Jennifer's health had faltered, her laughter growing thinner, her steps weaker. And one winter's night, when the world was hushed in snow, she slipped away, leaving Darren with silence so sharp it split his soul. Only Aurelia, the white dove Jennifer had once cared for, remained. The bird had been theirs, a companion they had found injured beneath the eaves of the workshop one rainy day. Jennifer nursed it back to life, and from that moment, the dove never left their side. After her passing, Aurelia stayed with Darren, an eternal reminder of her touch. But memories were not enough. Darren could not accept the cruelty of time, and so he began the greatest work of his life, a clock that did not simply tell time, but bent it, twisted it, opened it. A clock that could turn seconds into doors and hours into bridges. The present mystery. On a gray afternoon, as rain tapped against the dusty windows, the bell above the door chimed faintly. Few ever visited the shop now, so the sound startled Darren. Standing at the doorway was a young woman, her hair the shade of autumn leaves, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Grandfather?" she asked softly. It was Rose, his granddaughter. She had always been drawn to the mystery of his shop, though he had kept most of his secrets from her. Yet now, something in her eyes told him she was ready, or perhaps fate had decided it was time. "I heard the ticking from outside," Rose said, stepping in carefully, brushing her fingers over an old clock on the shelf. "It feels different here, like the walls remember something." Darren smiled faintly. "Perhaps they do. Perhaps the walls know more than I." Aurelia fluttered from the beam and landed on Rose's shoulder, cooing softly. Rose's face lit up, and she gently stroked the dove's feathers. "She still stays with you," Rose whispered. "Mother always told me this bird was special." Darren's chest tightened at the memory. "Your grandmother loved her," he murmured. "Aurelia has been with us longer than you can imagine. She carries memories." Rose turned toward the grand clock, its strange symbols glimmering faintly in the dim light. "And that one?" Why does it feel alive? Darren's hand trembled as he reached out, brushing over the clock's cold surface. Because it is, he said almost in a whisper. This is the heart of my work, my greatest folly or my greatest gift. The one thing I've built not for the world, but for love. Rose tilted her head, her voice low. For grandmother? Darren closed his eyes. For a moment he saw Jennifer again, her laughter, her soft hand on his cheek, the way she looked at him as though he was the only man in the world. His throat tightened. Yes, he breathed. For Jennifer? The first signs. That night, when the rain had stilled and silence filled the shop, Darren wound the great clock once more. Its ticking was unlike any other, deep, resonant, like a heartbeat that did not belong to the present. Rose sat nearby, watching, Aurelia resting in her lap. The minute hand shifted, not smoothly, but with a strange jolt, as though caught between worlds. The room seemed to breathe, the lantern light flickering, the air vibrating faintly. Then, in the silence between ticks, a sound drifted through the shop, faint, fragile, like a voice remembered in a dream. Darren, he froze. The blood in his veins turned to fire. That voice, soft, melodic, achingly familiar. Rose looked up, her eyes wide. Did you hear that? Darren's heart pounded. He whispered, trembling. Jennifer? Aurelia suddenly spread her wings, letting out a clear, ringing call as though answering an invisible presence. The clock's hands shifted again, and in that shimmer of ticking time, for the briefest moment, Darren saw it. A reflection in the glass, her face, Jennifer's face. And then, it was gone. Rain had softened to a drizzle, leaving the cobblestones outside glistening under the dim lanterns of the old town. Inside the shop, the air smelled of aged wood and oil, the gentle tick of hundreds of clocks creating a soft symphony. Rose lingered near the grand clock, her fingers tracing the strange symbols etched into its surface. Aurelia cooed softly from her shoulder, as if encouraging her. Grandfather, she said softly, why does this clock feel different? Why does it seem alive? Darren's eyes, shadowed with years of sorrow, softened as he watched her curiosity. Because it remembers her. Every laughter, every tear. And perhaps, if the world is kind, it might even bring her back, just for a moment. Rose tilted her head. Bring her back? Darren inhaled, closing his eyes as memories surged, not just of grief, but of a love so deep it had shaped every fiber of his being. Flashbacks of love. Years before, the shop had been brighter, filled with light and music. Jennifer would step inside, brushing raindrops from her hair, laughing at his meticulous obsession with clocks. You think if you fix every gear, you can fix the world too? She teased one afternoon, sunlight spilling across the workbenches. Darren smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I don't just fix clocks, he said, his voice soft. I try to make time stop at the moments I don't want to lose. Jennifer's eyes sparkled, understanding. She had always seen through him, the man who spoke through the language of gears and springs. Together, they had built Aurelia, finding the injured dove one stormy evening. She had whispered to Darren, if we care for this small soul, maybe our love can carry beyond storms too. They had spent countless evenings feeding Aurelia, teaching her to perch on their fingers, to respond to gentle whistles. And through it all, Darren had been reminded of a truth he rarely admitted, that love, fleeting and fragile, was worth every risk of pain. But fate had not been kind. The illness that crept into Jennifer's body was silent, invisible to the eye, and unstoppable. Darren had held her hand through long nights, whispering promises he feared he could not keep. Even if I leave this world, she had murmured, your hands, your clocks, they will remember me. Those words had burned into Darren's soul. Rose's discovery. As the present settled, Rose noticed a faint trail of dust along the corner of a bookshelf. Pulling at a loose floorboard, she uncovered an old leather-bound journal. Its pages were yellowed, the handwriting delicate and flowing. "This must be grandfather's," she whispered, opening the first page. The journal was a chronicle of Darren's life with Jennifer, from the first day they had met, the day they found Aurelia, to the days of laughter, and finally, to the days of quiet sorrow. Each page was filled not only with clock schematics, but with personal notes, love letters in code, messages only he could decipher. Rose's fingers trembled as she read, "If time is cruel and takes her away, let this clock become a bridge. Let it whisper her name back into this world, even if only for a heartbeat." The magnitude of Darren's obsession dawned on her. This clock was more than machinery. It was a vessel of longing, a prayer made tangible. Aurelia's role. The dove stirred suddenly, spreading her wings. She hopped to the clock's face, pecking gently at a small golden keyhole hidden among the symbols. Rose followed, noticing how the light seemed to catch the keyhole in a peculiar way, like it was waiting. Darren watched silently, his hands trembling. "Aurelia knows," he whispered. "She has always known. She carries pieces of Jennifer with her, her laughter, her touch, her spirit." His wrinkled hands stroking Aurelia's feathers. "My child, what is a bigger life?" Darren smiled faintly, his wrinkled hands stroking Aurelia's feathers. "My child, what is a bigger life than loving someone so deeply that even time can't silence it? Jennifer was my world. This little shop, these clocks, this dove, they are the echoes of her. No city, no fame, no wealth could ever have matched that." Rose swallowed hard, her young heart touched by the weight of his words. She wondered if she would ever know a love so enduring, one that still burned after decades. That night, Darren dreamt again of Jennifer, but this time it was different. She wasn't far, nor was she lost in the mists of memory. She stood beside him, her hand in his, guiding him through the quiet fields where the clocks of the stars themselves seemed to tick above them. Aurelia flew ahead, her wings glowing white against the dream sky, as if leading them toward something eternal. When Darren awoke, he felt both weary and at peace. He knew his time was drawing near, yet he wasn't afraid. Instead, he felt a strange serenity. A few days later, as Rose prepared tea, she heard an unusual sound, every clock in the shop striking together, not in chaos, but in harmony. She rushed to her grandfather's side. Darren sat in his chair, Aurelia on his shoulder, his face turned toward the fading light of dusk, his lips curved in a soft smile, eyes half closed, as though he was listening to music only he could hear. "Grandfather?" Rose whispered, touching his hand. He opened his eyes once more, whispering gently, "Jennifer, I hear her." And with that, his hand loosened and his chest grew still. Rose broke down in sobs, but then something miraculous happened. Aurelia spread her wings, flying to the highest shelf where an unfinished clock sat. With a single peck, she set it into motion. Its pendulum began to swing, releasing a sound unlike any other clock, a tone that resonated like a song, soft and beautiful, as though carrying Darren's love into the air. Rose froze, her tears mixing with awe. She felt her grandfather's presence linger, not in sorrow but in love. The workshop was alive with harmony, as though Darren's spirit had merged with the ticking heart of every clock. From that day on, Rose took over the shop. Aurelia never left her side, the dove now her guardian, a symbol of the love story she had inherited. And whenever dusk painted the sky gold, Rose would hear it, the faint echo of two voices intertwined, Darren and Jennifer, carried on Aurelia's wings. The clocks no longer marked the passage of time. They told a different story now, a story of love that defied the years, of a bond between man, woman, and bird, all woven together by the eternal ticking of hearts. And so the little workshop became a place not of endings, but of promises kept.